Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Busting Through Life Challenges with me, Di Parker. Today's guest is the lovely Gill Leece from the Learning Curve. Gill does a lot of training and helps an awful lot of companies. And Gill, thanks so much for coming along. We're interested in the aspect of coaching and what it is that you do to help your clients with that. But if you'd like to tell everybody about your story, how did you start with the Learning Curve?
Okay, so I worked in finance for over 30 years, quite a long time. And I got the opportunity to try something different. And I've worked over the years. I used to run a training team. And then I moved on to do risk management. But I've always been involved in training, mentoring, coaching, even as I moved on to risk, because we were looking at implementing and changing the risk culture. So there was loads of coaching involved then. And so I wanted to go into something I really enjoy doing. And it was coaching and training, predominantly managers, but also some broader topics as well, but mainly focusing on managers.
That's great. So how did you said something about the training for the coaching? Did you go away to do that? And
oh yeah, so I think I said to you earlier, didn't I, that many years ago, so I had no kind of particular interest in training, but there was an opportunity. I was only about 20, long time ago. There was an opportunity.
That long ago, but you know, sometimes it feels it.
It does. There was a program where the bank were wanting to introduce like trainers, technical trainers really, into our branch network. And we got the opportunity to go on a training course for it. So it was quite an in-depth training course. We got to go to London. I think it was my first trip to London, actually, to do that. Went on this big, long training course. It was predominantly instructional coaching, but it gave me a really good introduction. And when I got back, I got the chance to train people and discovered something that I didn't really know I enjoyed doing, but I had a real interest in it. And so over the years, I kept going into jobs that were either linked to it or were running training team or had some connection in some way.
Oh, that's great. So how does it work then, Gill? You go into the office. Do you offer a certain type of training? Do you do it bespoke to the office that you're going into? And then how do you incorporate the coaching aspect of the work that you do?
Yeah, so I offer a range of approaches. So people can just run like a half-day workshop if they want to. They can run a range of half-day workshops. But probably the main offering is I've recently had the leadership and management program approved by the Institute of Leadership and Management. And so that's the main offering. It's been really good to kind of add that credibility and that badge to it. And what that means is that they get 4 days of classroom training spread across 4 months, but also interspersed with learning activities, so independent learning activities to do at work. And they might be exploring the topic a bit further. It could be an article. It could be some reading with the Institute of Leadership and Management, a video, or it actually could be something practical at work, such as plan a conversation that you want to have with a member of staff about a tricky topic. You know, how are you going to plan that? And then they can use the models that we've talked about. And also some reflection pieces. There's been lots of research that's shown how valuable simply reflecting on learning can be in terms of increasing our retention and our ability then to embed the training. So some of the activities are reflection pieces. And then there's the practice one. So again, it might be, if we take a difficult conversation, it might then be, okay, go and have that difficult conversation. And then they reflect on it and get feedback afterwards and discuss it with their line manager. So the idea as well is to try and bring their line manager into it so that they're a part of the learning and can help them support it in the workplace as well. But alongside that journey, so yes, they can talk to me as we go through the journey about how they can use the tools and techniques, but also they get a coaching session with me. So we can either do a pure coaching session on a topic that they want to talk about, or we can do some mentoring as well, where they might have a particular issue or task to do with a member of their staff, and they want to talk about how best to approach it and using what we've learned on the workshop. So we can take either approach.
You know, all that sounds really quite good fun.
It's definitely.
So, and it must be useful too for the people that take you on to know that you're there should they have an issue with a member of staff, that you can have that space to create that time for them to go through what the issue is.
Yeah,
And I think that's what I do love about coaching, as opposed to the other, you know, the possibilities. You're not being told what to do, but you're pulling out of that person what's already in there and guiding them from there.
definitely.
So yeah, but all of that does sound a lot of fun, actually. Some of
It is
those
good fun.
tasks, I've done some of yours in the past and they are good fun. So what would you like to see going forward with the business now? Where and the coaching element of what you're doing? Do you want to expand into more executive coaching, for example, or?
I think I particularly enjoy working with new managers and middle managers and aspiring managers, to be honest. That's I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're really inquisitive, really curious, and wanting to know what kind of things can I do to make my life easier. Or sometimes they don't even realize some of these tools and techniques are out there. So just to introduce a simple tool can make a really big difference to somebody's job. And one of the hardest things I think about being a manager is managing your people, isn't it? You know, it's a real pleasure.
Yeah.
And also it can be one of the most difficult parts of it as well. So being able to help people make that easier so they can get more of the enjoyment out of it is
absolutely good. And good leadership and coaching will help them all get to that place a lot quicker than trying to, or if you've got those managers, because we've all had them where they start telling you what to do. Nobody likes getting told what to do. But if you do it in a way that you'll still get the results you want, probably beyond, because that person's wanting to do that stuff for you.
Definitely.
So if somebody wants to have a private word with you, is that something they would have to arrange with their HR department, or are you open to doing private work with people?
Yeah, I do private work as well. I've seen a number of people that normally it's work issues they come to me to talk about, but they might come privately rather than through their employer. And also through their employer. I do think it is important that people know that even if they come through their employer, what we talk about is confidential. Yes, so we will always share goals. So what is it that they're aiming to do? So that will be really transparent between them and their employer. And we'll share progress towards those goals, because obviously their employer wants to know that they're making progress. But that's really open between the three of us, I suppose. But the details of what's discussed is completely confidential. And I think it is important that people understand that.
Absolutely. And it helps them do a little bit better deep diving, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Okay. So, Gill, I've been asking my guests a little question. So, have you met anyone who's really inspired you in the last year or two?
Oh, in the last year. Do you know, I had a feeling you might ask me this kind of question, and I had somebody in mind, but they were one of my first managers, so definitely not in the last year or so. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I now work for myself and I kind of listen to lots of stuff. I try and go to as many opportunities to learn as I can, because I work on my own now and I do miss working with a team. So there's been quite a lot of things in the last year that have inspired me in the last little while. Rather than a person, there's one kind of podcast I particularly like. Is that one that I could use?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that helps us along our path, our journey. It's about sharing that, isn't it?
Definitely. And I always recommend it to people. It's called Squiggly Careers. Right. And it's by two wonderful ladies. I've got their book somewhere. But it's really insightful, really useful topics that they talk about, definitely relevant to my clients in terms of how to give feedback to people, how to coach, but loads of different topics. So I love listening to that to kind of get some inspiration and clarity, and also using it as like independent learning activity for people as well.
That's great. Well, there you go. So, Gill, how do people get in touch with you if they wish to reach out and ask if you can possibly help them?
So they can go to my website, which is learningcurve.im. They can email me, and that's jill@learningcurve.im, or they can give me a call. I'm on 368 416.
And of course, 07624, if you're
Sorry.
in the UK or further sea, you'll have to look up your own. Thank you so much for being my guest today. And I look forward to seeing you socially soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Di.
Take care. Bye, Jill.